The room fell quiet, not because a fight had started, but because of what was just said. A silence thick enough to feel pressed against the walls, the kind that makes people stop breathing without realizing it. A Thai Muay Thai legend leaned forward in his chair. Decades of dominance sat easily on his shoulders. Hundreds of fights, hundreds of victories. His eyes were cold, not angry, not excited, just certain. His lips curled into a smile that carried no warmth at all. Filipinos are too soft for Muay Thai. The words didn't echo. They landed. A few people laughed, short, nervous sounds meant to show loyalty. Others shifted in their seats, suddenly interested in the floor. A trainer cleared his throat. Someone in the back crossed their arms. Cameras adjusted. Zoomed in. This was the moment they knew would travel. Across from him stood a young Filipino fighter. He didn't blink. He didn't tighten his jaw, didn't roll his shoulders, didn't clench his fists, no flash of anger, no wounded pride. He didn't argue, he didn't explain, he didn't defend himself. He just stood there, still, composed, almost detached, like a man listening to a weather report rather than an insult, meant to strip him of dignity. The contrast was unsettling. One man radiated confidence earned through dominance. The other radiated something quieter, harder to read. In that moment, everyone in the room thought they understood what they were seeing. A legend asserting hierarchy, an underdog absorbing humiliation, a familiar story. But no one, not the fighters, not the trainers, not the cameras already rolling, realized what they were actually watching. This wasn't submission. It was restraint. And they were seconds away from witnessing one of the most humbling reversals combat sports had ever recorded. Not through rage, not through brute force, but through patience, intelligence, and a silence that would soon speak louder than any insult ever could. June 2023. Bangkok. Heat clung to the city even indoors, thick and unmoving, as if the air itself refused to settle. Inside a legendary training gym near Lumpinee Boxing Stadium, the kind of place where history soaked into the mats and sweat stained the walls, fighters from across Southeast Asia had gathered for an international combat sports exhibition. This wasn't a tourist showcase. This wasn't friendly sparring. This was hierarchy on display. Champions stood with arms folded. Trainers whispered to one another in low voices. Media crews hovered, cameras ready, instincts tuned for tension. Every man in that room understood the same unspoken truth. Reputation was being measured. And in combat sports, reputation meant everything. It determined who was feared, who was respected, and who would never be taken seriously again. When the Philippine delegation introduced their fighter, the room subtly shifted. Not dramatically, not all at once, just enough for trained eyes to notice. A veteran Thai champion, decorated, battle-hardened, undefeated for years, tilted his head and let out a laugh. Not loud, not playful, sharp, the kind of laugh meant to cut. "You want to fight Muay Thai?" he said in accented English, eyes narrowing as he looked the Filipino fighter up and down. "You?" He rose from his seat and began to circle him slowly, like a craftsman inspecting a flawed tool. "Soft body," he said, tapping the air near the fighter's midsection. "Soft hands." A few heads nodded. "Filipinos eat rice and fish." He continued, "Thai fighters are forged in pain." The words didn't rush. They were delivered calmly, confidently, spoken by a man who had never been forced to doubt them. "We train since childhood," he said. 8 hours every day. He lifted one leg slightly, as if reminding everyone in the room what decades of conditioning looked like. "We harden our shins on trees until bone becomes iron. Muay Thai is science." The room hummed with agreement. Then came the dismissal. Casual, cruel. What do Filipinos have? He asked, spreading his hands. Stick dancing, tourist martial arts? A ripple of laughter moved through the gym. Some laughed because they agreed. Some laughed because it was safer than staying silent. Some laughed because they didn't want to be the odd one out. But everyone felt it. This wasn't trash talk. This was erasure. The insult wasn't just personal. It wasn't just aimed at the man standing there. It was cultural, historical, absolute. And through it all, the Filipino fighter did not move. He didn't bristle, didn't lower his gaze, didn't clench his jaw. He stood quietly, hands relaxed at his sides, eyes steady, absorbing the moment without reacting to it. As if he had heard these words before, as if he had learned long ago that some things weren't meant to be answered with speech. And in that silence, unremarkable to most, unsettling to a few, something began to form. Not anger, not fear, but the calm certainty of someone who knows that soon words will no longer be necessary. His name was Miguel Ramos, 26 years old, not large, not physically imposing, not the kind of man who drew attention simply by entering a room. No scars displayed like trophies, no chest puffed out in quiet challenge, no restless energy demanding to be noticed. He stood the way men do who are used to being overlooked. Miguel had grown up training Filipino martial arts since childhood. Systems passed down quietly, often in backyards, small gyms, or borrowed spaces. Arts that didn't rely on spectacle. Arts that didn't advertise themselves. Arts that, for decades, had been dismissed by outsiders as ceremonial, outdated, or symbolic rather than practical. Stickwork mistaken for dance. Close-range techniques brushed off as street scuffles. Principles reduced to folklore. In the corner of the gym stood his coach. An elderly man, thin, stooped, unassuming. He didn't interrupt, didn't bristle at the insults, didn't correct anyone. He simply watched. His eyes followed everything, the posture, the distance, the tone of the room. The way a farmer watches clouds, already knowing what kind of storm is forming. Miguel had heard these words before, not once, not occasionally, but repeatedly, over years. Filipino systems were irrelevant, too soft, too traditional, too old for modern combat. He'd heard it from fighters, from commentators, from people who had never stood close enough to violence to understand it. But what the Thai champion didn't know, what no one in that room knew, was that Miguel had spent his life training for a kind of fight that didn't announce itself. Not clean exchanges at long range, not power traded for power. He trained for close-range violence, the kind that happens when space disappears, when timing matters more than strength, when the weapon is the limb coming toward you, and you don't block it, you break its usefulness. He trained in weapon awareness, learning to treat every arm, elbow, knee, and shin as something that could be neutralized, redirected, or dismantled. He trained in structural destruction, attacking balance, posture, base, and confidence rather than chasing knockouts. And above all, he trained patience, the kind that allows a man to stand silently while being underestimated, the kind that waits for arrogance to overextend itself, the kind that understands one simple truth. You don't need to correct someone who is about to teach himself a lesson. Miguel didn't look like a threat, and that was exactly why he was one. Miguel finally spoke, not loudly, not defiantly, not with the heat of wounded pride. His voice was calm, almost conversational, as if he were asking a question whose answer didn't frighten him in the slightest. Would you like to make this exhibition meaningful? The words didn't land immediately. For a fraction of a second, no one reacted. Then the room stilled. Conversations died mid-sentence. A camera operator froze, finger hovering over the zoom. Even the laughter that had lingered moments earlier vanished, as if someone had cut the power. Miguel continued, his tone unchanged. A real fight. he said. Traditional Muay Thai rules. 5 rounds. That was when the Thai champion stopped smiling. The casual confidence drained from his face, replaced by something sharper. More alert, more serious. You understand what you're asking? He said slowly, eyes locked on Miguel now, not circling him anymore, not inspecting, but measuring. This isn't sparring. He went on. This isn't a demonstration. He took a step closer. In a real Muay Thai fight, bones break, careers end, men don't walk away the same. The room waited. Miguel didn't flinch. He didn't rush to reassure, didn't add qualifiers, didn't soften the request. He nodded once. I understand. That was all. No bravado, no challenge in his tone, just acceptance. For a long moment the Thai champion studied him, searching for hesitation, fear, doubt. He found none. The answer came shortly after. Tomorrow night. Under the lights. 5 rounds. Lumpinee Boxing Stadium. And just like that, what had begun as mockery turned into something far larger than anyone expected. Phones came out. Messages were sent. Calls were made. A Thai legend versus an unassuming Filipino challenger. Pride versus silence. Reputation versus restraint. By the time the room began to breathe again, the story had already escaped the walls of the gym. What was supposed to be an exhibition had become a reckoning, and the world was about to watch. The next night, Lumpinee was packed beyond capacity. What was designed for 5,000 now held more than 8. People filled every seat, stood in aisles, pressed against railings. The air vibrated with anticipation. Thai fans chanted in rhythmic waves, voices rolling through the stadium like thunder. This was home ground, sacred ground, a place where legends were made and outsiders were broken. Scattered among them were small clusters of Filipino supporters. Outnumbered, quiet, tense. They didn't chant. They watched, hands clasped, shoulders tight, knowing exactly what was at stake. Above it all, international cameras hovered. This was no longer a local event. Broadcasters from across Asia, phones live streaming to millions, commentators whispering about pride, legacy, and the danger of disrespect. The lights dimmed. The Thai legend entered first. The roar was immediate. He moved with ritualized precision, performing the Y crew with movements refined by decades of repetition. Every step carried meaning. Every bow acknowledged history. His posture radiated certainty, the calm authority of a man who had never needed to doubt himself. His body looked carved from stone, muscles dense and compact, legs thick from years of punishment absorbed and returned. Scars earned, not hidden. This was a man shaped by suffering and survival, a man the crowd trusted completely. Then Miguel entered. No smoke, no roar, no dramatic pause. He walked calmly, accompanied only by his aging coach. No intimidation, no theatrics, no attempt to project power he didn't need to announce. He bowed to the corners of the ring, to the referee, to his opponent. Just respect. That contrast unsettled a few people. Most, however, reached the same conclusion. They looked at the size difference, the conditioning, the history. They remembered the words spoken the day before. And quietly, almost unanimously, they thought the same thing. This wouldn't last long. This would be quick, and it would be painful, not just for the body, but for the lesson everyone believed the Filipino fighter was about to learn. The bell rang. Sharp, unmistakable. And the Thai champion moved immediately. No testing. No feeling out. Straight into dominance. A low kick came first. Fast, heavy, precise. The kind designed not just to score but to erode, to take away balance, confidence, and movement with every impact. The sound echoed through the stadium. A dull, brutal crack. Miguel absorbed it. He didn't stagger, didn't wince, didn't shift his weight away in panic. Another kick followed, harder this time, same result. No visible pain, no instinctive retreat. Instead, Miguel stepped forward. Not backward, not sideways. Forward, closing the distance into a range Muay Thai fighters rarely want to stay in for long. A few murmurs rippled through the crowd. Something felt wrong. The Thai champion was doing everything correctly. The kicks were landing. The pressure was there. The rhythm was his. But Miguel wasn't breaking. He wasn't giving space, wasn't conceding ground, wasn't reacting the way bodies usually react to that kind of punishment. Then it happened. An elbow came slicing in, sharp, violent, familiar, a weapon that had ended countless fights. Miguel didn't block it the way Muay Thai fighters are taught. He redirected it, and in the same motion struck the arm itself. Not the head, not the body, the weapon. The Thai champion pulled back instinctively, eyes narrowing as he shook his arm. Confusion flickered across his face. That wasn't Muay Thai. That wasn't something he recognized. The bell sounded again. Round 1 was over. On the scorecards, the Thai champion was ahead. But as he turned toward his corner, his expression told a different story. The certainty he had walked in with had cracked, just slightly. Something wasn't right. And for the first time in years, he knew it. Round 2 exposed it. What had felt strange in the first round became impossible to ignore in the second. The Thai legend wanted space. He needed range, the precise distance where Muay Thai thrives, where kicks can whip freely, where elbows generate power, where timing, honed over decades, turns violence into rhythm. Miguel refused to give it to him. Every time the Thai champion tried to step back and reset, Miguel followed. Every time space opened, it vanished again. Not recklessly, not by charging, but by collapsing distance with intent. Each entry was calculated, each step cut an angle. Each movement denied the Thai fighter the room he depended on. And every strike that came toward Miguel was met the same way. Not with passive defense, not with high guards or retreats, but with punishment. A kick landed. Miguel checked it with timing that sent force back into the shin. An elbow came. Miguel redirected and struck the arm again. A punch extended. Miguel's forearm crashed into it, targeting nerves, joints, structure. The message was subtle, but relentless. Every weapon you throw costs you something. Then the clinch came. The Thai champion secured it confidently. This was his world. Years of clinch dominance. Endless hours breaking posture, landing knees, draining opponents. For a moment it looked familiar again. Then Miguel changed the rules. He didn't fight the clinch the way Muay Thai fighters do. He didn't wrestle for head position. Didn't try to out-muscle. Didn't wait. He attacked balance, the base, the hips, the structure holding everything together. Small shifts, subtle leverage, pressure applied where strength couldn't compensate. Within seconds, the positions reversed. The Thai champion found himself off balance, his weight compromised, his posture broken. And then the knees landed. Short, sharp, efficient. The Thai champion's eyes widened, not in pain, but in recognition. This wasn't someone overpowering him. This was someone solving him. Not brute force, not toughness. Problem-solving, executed under pressure, in real time, against a man who had spent his life believing there were no problems left he hadn't already mastered. And for the first time in the fight, the crowd sensed it too. This wasn't going the way it was supposed to. Round 3. The shift was unmistakable now. Frustration crept into the Thai legend's movements, small but visible to anyone who had spent time around fighters. His breathing was heavier, his pacing less patient. The calm certainty that defined his style had begun to fracture. He decided to end it. The combination came fast and familiar, one that had closed the door on dozens of opponents over the years. Kick, cross, elbow. The low kick fired first, heavy and committed. Miguel avoided it with a subtle step offline. No retreat, no panic, just enough movement to let it pass without meeting full force. The cross followed, snapping toward his head. Miguel slipped inside, closing distance once again, turning power into proximity. And then the elbow came. Violent, final, the kind thrown when a fighter believes the moment has arrived. Miguel didn't raise a guard. He struck the arm. Again. This time with precision. His forearm collided with a nerve cluster just above the elbow. Perfect timing. Perfect angle. A sharp crack cut through the air. Not the sound of flesh, the sound of structure meeting consequence. The Thai champion staggered. Not dramatically, not theatrically, but unmistakably. He pulled back, shaking his arm, his expression shifting from aggression to disbelief. Blood appeared, thin at first, then visible, trickling from a cut above his eye. And he backed up. The stadium went silent. No chanting, no cheering, no breath. Thousands of people watching the same impossible image form in front of them. A man who had never retreated. Retreating, for the first time in his long, decorated career. The Thai legend didn't look angry, he didn't look hurt, he looked unsure. And that uncertainty, quiet, exposed, undeniable, was louder than any roar the crowd had made all night. Round 4. And desperation finally surfaced. The Thai champion no longer waited for openings, no longer measured distance, no longer trusted the rhythm that had guided him for decades. He charged forward. Power shots first. Wide, heavy, thrown with the intention of forcing an ending rather than finding one. Each strike carried frustration now, not calculation. Then came the flying knee. A spectacular weapon. A career-defining move. The same technique that had knocked out champions and ended rivalries in a single, violent moment. The crowd rose as one. This was it. Miguel saw it coming. Not because he was faster, but because desperation is predictable. He stepped offline, just enough. Not retreating. Not absorbing. As the Thai champion landed, his weight shifted awkwardly for a split second. That was all Miguel needed. He swept him, clean, efficient, unavoidable. The Thai legend crashed onto the canvas. For a heartbeat, the stadium didn't react. Then the gasps came, sharp, collective, almost panicked. A legend. On the ground, in his own stadium. He rose immediately. Pride wouldn't allow anything else. He stood back up, eyes burning, chest heaving, ready to continue. But something had changed. Not his strength, not his conditioning. His certainty was gone. The unshakable belief that Muay Thai had all the answers had cracked. The bell rang. He walked to his corner slower now. The cuts were visible, the arm compromised, the leg damaged. His cornerman spoke urgently, voices tight with concern. He waved them off at first, then they made the decision for him. The towel came in, white against the canvas, final. The referee stepped between them. The fight was over, and in that moment, long before the official announcement, everyone in the arena understood what they had just witnessed. This wasn't an upset. It was a dismantling, not of a body, but of a belief that had never before been questioned. The stadium waited, not in celebration, not in anger, in stillness. Thousands of people sat frozen in their seats, unsure how to respond to what they had just seen. No one rushed for the exits. No one spoke. The noise that had filled the arena all night drained away, leaving only the hum of lights and distant camera shutters. Then, the Thai legend stood, slowly, deliberately. He wiped the blood from his face, took one steady breath, and stepped away from his corner. He didn't look at the referee, didn't look at the crowd. He walked straight toward Miguel. Every step carried weight. This was a man who had spent his life being bowed to, a man whose presence alone commanded respect. When he reached Miguel, he stopped, and then, without hesitation, he bowed. Deep, traditional, unmistakable, a gesture reserved for teachers, for masters, for moments that cannot be taken back. Gasps rippled through the stadium. Cameras surged forward. No one had ever seen this before. "I was wrong," he said, his voice steady, carrying clearly through the microphones. "I called you soft." He paused. "I called your art dancing." Another pause, longer this time. "What you showed me is science," he continued, "something I did not understand." He looked directly at Miguel. "You were not weak," he said. "You were precise." The words landed heavier than any strike that night. In that instant, the fight ended for the second time. But this time, completely. That moment didn't spread because of knockdowns. It didn't go viral because of blood or violence. It went everywhere because the world rarely witnesses something more powerful than dominance. Humility. A legend admitting ignorance. A master acknowledging another path. A man strong enough to say, in front of millions, "I still have something to learn." And that was the image people shared. Not the fall, but the bow. Within months, the ripple became a wave. Across Thailand, doors that had never opened before began to unlock. Muay Thai gyms, some of them decades old, started inviting Filipino martial arts instructors inside. Not as curiosities, not as guests, as teachers. Seminars filled almost overnight. Fighters crowded around techniques they had once dismissed, now watching closely as principles of distance, limb control, and balance were broken down with surgical clarity. Movements that had been laughed at were now studied, tested, integrated. The tone changed. Mockery gave way to curiosity. Curiosity turned into respect. Miguel didn't win because his art was stronger. He won because it was smarter, because adaptability outlasts hardness, because intelligence survives brute force, because knowledge, quietly preserved, patiently practiced, endures long after arrogance burns itself out. The fighter they had called too soft proved something older than combat sports, older than any ring or rule set. True strength doesn't shout. It doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't demand belief. It waits. And when the moment comes, when certainty overreaches, when pride exposes itself, it speaks, not loudly, not angrily, but clearly enough for the world to finally listen.